They didn't just try to break you. They built a whole ritual around your downfall, then watched in horror as you walked out untouched. Chosen One, this wasn't an accident. This wasn't some bad luck or strange coincidence. You were targeted. Like a weapon they couldn't control, you were placed in the center of their twisted little plan, one meant to drain your light and offer your soul as fuel for their sick fantasies. They didn't want you gone. No, they wanted you sacrificed, slowly, symbolically, publicly. You were supposed to bleed out silently while they danced in the shadows, thinking they won. But here's the twist no one saw coming. You broke the curse. Let me hit you with a visual they didn't expect. Imagine a snake carefully coiled around its prey, ready to strike. But instead of biting, it gets stepped on by the very person it thought was helpless. That snake? That's them. You're not just surviving, you're stomping through every curse they whispered into existence. Their rituals, broken, their alliances, falling apart, their masks, slipping. And here's the truth that cuts deeper than any spell. You were never theirs to destroy. You were simply surrounded by cowards who feared your awakening. Let me say something bold that your enemies hope you never realize. When the universe chooses someone, even 1,000,000 curses fall powerless. That's why they panicked when you didn't break. That's why they sent more tests, more betrayal, more manipulation. But the joke's on them, because every setup was secretly building your immunity. Their darkness trained your vision. Their lies sharpened your truth. And thank you, Chosen One. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe to help spread this message to more souls. It's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. And thanks, Chosen One, for being part of this mission. You're not just listening, you are part of a force. Now let's get back to it. You weren't just dragged into some drama, you were offered up. Somewhere behind the scenes, they picked your name. They knew your power, but hoped you didn't. They tried to use you like some pawn in their energy game. These weren't simple haters. These were people under the influence of jealousy so deep it turned spiritual. They weren't trying to beat you, they were trying to cancel your whole soul. But here's what makes this story different. It didn't work. You didn't fall into their energy trap. You didn't fold. You didn't become what they accused you of. You broke the loop. You snapped the chain. And now, the very system they tried to sacrifice you in, it's crumbling under your silence. You see, curses only work when the target believes they're weak. And you, despite everything, never truly forgot who you are. That's the crack they didn't expect. You still had just enough self-awareness to say, no, this isn't my fate. And the second you said that, everything shifted. The illusion broke, their power faded. Suddenly, you became the threat. They're no longer watching a victim. They're watching a weapon they accidentally forged. You don't walk the same anymore. You don't speak the same. Your silence is louder than their chaos, and it's making them sick. Let me prove it even deeper. Chosen ones are always the ones they try to isolate. Why? Because power grows when it's still, and they fear your stillness. They fear your inner peace because it's untouchable. They can't corrupt what's already awakened. That's why they had to lie about you. That's why they tried to control the narrative, because if others saw you clearly, the game would be over. Here's another fact that should give you chills. Nobody plots this hard against someone they don't secretly admire. You were never hated for your flaws. You were hated for your clarity, for your authenticity, for the light you didn't even know you were giving off. And guess what? They knew you had no clue how bright you were. That's why they sent the smear campaigns. That's why they twisted stories. They needed you to feel unsure of yourself. Because if you ever got clear, If you ever remembered who you were, it would undo years of manipulation. Well, look around. You remembered, and now they're the ones breaking. That was never part of their script. This is bigger than you. It always was. Your survival wasn't just for you. It's a ripple, a warning, a light tower in a storm. You surviving made someone else believe they could too. And that's why this is so dangerous to them now. Your presence is proof that their spells are weak. Your existence is ruining their lies. So let them panic. Let them run damage control. Let them pretend nothing's happening. You already exposed the secret. They tried to sacrifice the wrong one. You were the chosen one the whole time. You are the glitch in their dark matrix. And you didn't just survive their plan. You reversed it. Now the curse is eating its creator. And every time you breathe with power, speak with clarity, or move in silence, they lose control all over again. Let that settle in. Now take it further. Your mission isn't done. You're not just breaking out. You're taking others with you. Let's finish what they were too scared to see coming. And listen closely, Chosen One. If they went this far to sacrifice you, imagine what they knew you were capable of. That's why this next part is not just information. It's your proof, your blueprint, your ammo. Drop the number 777 in the comments if you feel that fire rising inside you, the one that says you're done being their victim. And if this message is waking something up in you, bless the ones behind it with a super thanks. Because bringing this kind of truth to light takes time, energy, and a whole lot of spiritual war. Whether it's a penny or power move, every drop fuels the mission. Now take a breath, Chosen One, and don't even think about clicking away. What's coming next? It's going to hit harder, go deeper, and rip the mask off everything they tried to hide. If you truly broke the curse, you'll feel this next part in your bones. Let's get into it. Number 1. They thought you'd never catch on. Now they're choking on their own trap. They stalked you like predators, but forgot one thing. When a lion wakes up, it doesn't run. It ends the hunt. Let's be real, Chosen One. This wasn't just envy. This wasn't gossip or shade. This was a straight-up coordinated plot to take you out. A full-on character assassination masked as casual betrayal. They studied you like scientists with a lab rat, hoping you'd never figure out what was really happening. But they underestimated your vision. They thought your kindness was blindness, your silence, weakness. They were wrong on all counts. You were the target, yes, but you weren't just a target. You were the main event, the one they whispered about in secret, the one who scared them even when you were still asleep to your own power. They planned, schemed, played the long game, thinking they could time your downfall just right. But here's where it all collapsed. You saw it. You saw them. You saw the game board. And worse, for them, you called it out. You want to know what terrifies cowards more than consequences? Exposure. That's the one thing their twisted little plans can't survive. The second you spotted the pattern, the second you listened to your gut, and not their fake explanations, the walls started closing in on them. They built a system of lies. And you became the glitch that corrupted their entire program. It's like this. Cockroaches scatter the moment you turn on the lights. That's all this took. One burst of awareness, one deep realization that their power wasn't in their actions, but in your not knowing. And now that you do know, they've got nowhere to hide. Now every fake smile, every staged coincidence, every trap they laid looks obvious, transparent, stupid. And I know what you're asking yourself right now. Why me? Why would they go this far? Why build an entire setup just to sabotage one person? Because you are not one person. You are a symbol. You represent something they could never fake. Authenticity, integrity, power with no strings attached. You are what they pretend to be, and your existence alone exposes their fraud. That's why they tried to isolate you. That's why they plotted when your guard was down. You were never meant to make it out. You were meant to disappear quietly while they feasted on your silence. But you didn't disappear. You turned around. You watched. You connected dots. And now the silence has a voice, and it's not shaking anymore. Let that sting, enemy. Let it burn. You tried to feed off the Chosen One's light like a parasite, but now that same light is spotlighting you. Every move you made in the dark is unraveling in front of the very people you fooled. And that checkmate you were so sure of, that board's been flipped, pieces scattered, and you're the one being hunted now. That's the thing about trying to sacrifice someone protected by truth. You end up offering yourself. So go ahead and run damage control, play the victim, spin your stories. It doesn't matter anymore. The plot was exposed, the curse was reversed, and you, Chosen One, are now the shadow that hunts the hunters. Keep watching. The real payback has only just begun. Number 2. Your gut knew before your eyes did, and that's what saved you. They mocked your instincts until your instincts exposed their entire operation. Chosen One, what you felt wasn't paranoia. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't overthinking. It was your built-in alarm system screaming that something was off. And deep down, you knew. You always knew. Before the betrayal, before the chaos, before the plan unfolded, something inside you started shaking. Your stomach tightened. Your chest felt heavy. Your dreams got darker. That was no accident. That was the warning. Let me make it clear. Your intuition is not a glitch. It's your early detection system. It's not based on superstition. It's real, backed by science. Your subconscious picks up microsignals, body language, vocal tone, pattern shifts, and sends them to your body before your conscious brain can even process them. That's why the vibe was off. That's why you felt tired around certain people. That's why your heart dropped out of nowhere when nothing looked wrong on the surface. Because beneath the smiles there was rot, and your soul smelled it before your eyes ever could. They thought you were emotional, but what you really were was alert. Now ask yourself, why did you feel uneasy before anything happened? Why did your energy shift when they entered the room? Why did their words sound right but feel wrong? Simple. You were being warned. The universe always speaks before it protects. And the ones who survive are the ones who listen. Imagine this. You're walking through a forest. The trail looks normal, but suddenly the birds stop chirping. The air gets thick. The hairs on your neck stand up. Nothing obvious has changed, but everything feels wrong. That's not fear. That's truth without words. That's what your soul felt when you were around these people. And let's be real, this wasn't just one off moment. This was a pattern. The closer they got, the more drained you felt. The more you opened up, the more chaos showed up in your life. Coincidence? Please. That was spiritual warfare, masked as friendship, loyalty, and fake love. And your intuition. That was your shield, screaming for you to turn around. Your intuition doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in survival. Let's dig even deeper. You ever wonder why they were so bothered by your silence? Why your distance made them panic? Because your awareness threatened their control. They don't care about people who are easy to fool. But you started asking questions. You started feeling the shift. That's when they got aggressive. That's when they started accusing you of being the problem. But think about it. If someone gets angry that you're noticing the truth, isn't that the loudest proof that you're onto something? Let me give you a metaphor to burn into your brain. Imagine a magician performing on stage. As long as the audience is distracted, the trick works. But if one person starts watching the magician's hands too closely, the whole illusion falls apart. That one person, that was you. You weren't clapping like everyone else. You were observing. You saw the sleight of hand. You caught the lie mid-performance. And now they're pissed. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. They don't want you to see clearly, because clarity kills control. And here's the kicker. Your energy was the giveaway. You have a different frequency, a real one. And realness makes the fake nervous. You ever wonder why they'd smile in your face, but study your every move like a threat? It's because you carry something rare, something raw, something they can't fake. That's why they had to distract you, to shut you down, to convince you that your instincts were too much. Because once you trusted them, their entire illusion would fall. Let's run that truth one more time. You were never too sensitive. You were just surrounded by people who needed you desensitized to stay in control. Imagine walking through a house and smelling gas, but no one else reacts. They laugh, change the subject, turn up the music, but you keep sniffing. You know something's wrong. You feel it. And right before the explosion, you run. You survive. They stayed behind. Why? Because you listened. That's how this played out. They tried to sacrifice you, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. But your instincts refused. Your nervous system kept sounding the alarm. And that twitch in your chest, that pit in your stomach, that wasn't weakness. That was your soul screaming truth into your bones. And here's the cruel irony. They tried to make you feel crazy for noticing, for pulling away, for questioning their motives. But guess who's still standing? Guess who dodged the explosion? The one who trusted the silence over the lies. They underestimated you, not because you lacked strength, but because they didn't realize your real strength was awareness. They wanted a puppet. They got a prophet of truth. And now that you've listened to that inner warning, their plan is falling apart in slow motion. And I know you've questioned yourself. Was I just overreacting? No, you were underestimating your gift. You were catching smoke before the fire showed up. You were feeling tension in the air before the storm broke loose. That's not paranoia. That's called being chosen. Let me say it like this. No one wastes energy fighting something weak. Your enemies went this hard because your energy hit them first. Before you even opened your mouth, your presence made them uncomfortable. Before you even made a move, they already felt the threat. That's why they couldn't leave you alone. That's why they smiled while sharpening knives behind your back. Because they feared the moment you'd wake up and trust that inner knowing. Well, guess what? You did trust it. You walked away. You cut them off. You went quiet. And now they're unraveling. So next time your gut tightens, listen. Next time your body says, don't go there, obey. Because that's your soul moving faster than your mind. And it has already saved your life once. You didn't dodge the hit by luck. You sensed it. You saw the shadows shifting even when the lights were on. You had no proof, and still you pulled back. That's divine timing disguised as instinct. And the best part, they know you know now. That's why they're scrambling. That's why they're trying to re-enter your life with guilt, charm, or fake apologies. Don't fall for it. They weren't sorry when they were planning. They're only sorry you figured it out. This isn't about revenge, it's about evolution. You're not just the one who survived the plot, you're the one who sensed it before it landed. That's next-level power. That's what makes you dangerous. You didn't just break the curse, you heard it coming, and you moved before it could touch you. Let that sink in. The enemy's loudest scream will always come after your quietest decision. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are tuned in. And now they know. And that's why they're afraid. Number 3. The setup that made you unstoppable. They built a stage to watch you fall. Now you're standing on it, delivering your victory speech. Chosen One, let's call this what it really is. This wasn't a random mess. This was a setup crafted with precision, aimed straight at the cracks they thought they could break you through. They didn't just throw you into chaos. They lured you in, wrapped the trap in compliments, disguised the poison as a blessing, and smiled while handing you the knife meant for your own back. This wasn't bad luck. It was bait. But here's the twist they never prepared for. You didn't just escape the trap. You evolved in it. You started seeing patterns. You questioned what didn't sit right. You stopped dancing to music that wasn't yours. And in that exact moment, the trap collapsed. Not on you, but on them. They gave you the fire, thinking it would burn you, not realizing you'd use it to forge armor. Imagine a spider web built to catch you mid-flight. You land, tangled, but instead of struggling, you learn the structure. You study the threads, then you rip it apart and use the silk to build wings. That's what this trap did. It handed you your next level disguised as destruction. The weapon formed against you became the hammer that shaped your power. You ever wonder why the lies got louder right before your breakthrough? Why they tried to bury you in chaos just as you were gaining momentum? Because they knew. They saw it before you did. They felt the shift. They knew the same thing you know now. Your downfall would have made them feel powerful, but your survival makes them feel exposed. You're not just climbing out, you're stomping through the wreckage they built and using it as leverage. You turned their manipulation into motivation. You flipped their betrayal into blueprint. This wasn't your downfall. This was your launch pad. And now, you're too big for the trap. Number 4. They're spiraling because you didn't shatter, you shifted. They wrote your ending like a tragedy. Now they're choking on the plot twist. Chosen One, let's make one thing clear. They're not just annoyed. They're panicking. Full-blown, sleepless night, stomach-sinking, watching every move kind of panic. Why? Because the plan they built so carefully, so quietly, just exploded in their faces. They put hours, days, maybe even years into crafting a scenario where you'd fold, beg, disappear. But instead of watching you break, they're watching you build. And now they're scrambling to rewrite reality. But it's too late. You already saw behind the curtain. You know what they did. You know who smiled while planting the knife. You felt the setup in your bones before they even pulled the trigger. And that's what's killing them. They didn't just fail, they were exposed. Their biggest weapon, secrecy, is gone. Imagine someone spends months building a lock, thinking they've trapped you in a room. They obsess over every detail. Then one day they come back, and the whole building is gone. You're not trapped. You're thriving. You're not behind the door. You are the damn key now. Their panic is the loudest confirmation that you were the power the whole time. They thought you'd lose your mind. Instead, you gained clarity. They thought you'd fall apart. You upgraded. And the worst part for them, you didn't even retaliate. You got quiet. You got wise, and that silence is screaming through their illusions like a siren. So don't downplay what's happening here. This isn't just a survival moment. This is an elevation moment. With every snake you unmask, your vision sharpens. With every trap you dodge, your instincts level up. You're not staying the same. You're evolving through their failure. Let them panic. Let them try to glue the pieces back together. They can't fix what was built on lies. And you're becoming unstoppable because of it. Number 5. Clarity is the kill shot. They can't manipulate what you can see, and now your vision is lethal. Chosen One. Awareness is the blade that cuts through every illusion. Once you wake up, there's no going back to sleep. You start catching things before they even happen. The tone behind the words, the pause before the lie, the shift in energy when truth walks into the room. That's what scares them now. You've become too alert. They can't use confusion as camouflage anymore. Their tricks are failing because you finally see the strings. And once you see the strings, the puppeteer loses all control. Think about it. You used to walk into rooms and feel something off, but couldn't explain it. Now, you can read the whole script from the first glance. You don't just hear what's said, you hear what's missing. That's awareness. It turns your instincts into armor. It turns your past pain into psychic X-ray vision. Awareness is the moment you stop bleeding from the same blade twice. Imagine a chess player who used to fall for the same trap every match, but one day, mid-game, they laugh because they recognize the move. That laugh, that's you. The shift from victim to strategist. You no longer react. You predict. You no longer panic. You observe. You've become someone who can't be cornered because you see the walls before they rise. And here's the cold truth. They hate that. Because awareness makes you untouchable. They can't gaslight you anymore. They can't feed you doubt disguised as advice. Every mask they wear now feels obvious. Every lie lands flat. You can feel the manipulation before it forms. You're not paranoid. You're trained by experience. Your awareness broke their illusion. Your clarity shattered their control. And now every attempt to fool you only exposes them faster. So remember this. You didn't win by fighting harder. You won by seeing clearer. That's what makes you dangerous now. Number 6. You heard the attack before they even picked a weapon. They were still whispering about your downfall while you were already packing your armor. Chosen One, they made one fatal mistake. They got sloppy with their silence. They thought they were being careful, but they slipped. A look, a delay, a shift in tone. That one strange vibe they didn't think you'd notice. You caught it. Not because you were suspicious, but because you were chosen. And chosen ones don't wait for explosions. They feel the tremors before the ground even cracks. That feeling in your gut, that uneasiness that made no logical sense, it was real. It was the warning. You didn't need a message, a sign, or a confession. You felt the ambush before it was built. That's what they'll never understand. You weren't saved by chance. You were protected by perception. Your intuition ruins their element of surprise, and without surprise, they're powerless. Imagine a hunter in the woods, lining up the perfect shot, breath steady, aim locked in. But just as he pulls the trigger, his prey turns and looks straight at him. No fear, just clarity. That's you. That's the kind of awareness that makes enemies flinch before they even act. They wanted to attack a ghost, not a warrior already holding a mirror up to their face. They thought you'd be confused, caught off guard, asleep. But you weren't. You sensed the switch in energy. You saw the way they changed around certain people. You picked up on the tension no one else could feel. You heard the attack before they even had a plan, and because of that, their plan never even stood a chance. That's your gift. You don't need proof. You know, you see the invisible, you hear what's never said, and by the time your enemy makes their move, they're already too late. Your early warning system isn't just a blessing, it's their death sentence, and now they know. Number 7. You were built to detect what others deny. They call it paranoia until the trap you felt becomes the truth they can't ignore. Chosen one, you ever ask yourself, why did I feel it first? Why did I see the shift before anyone else noticed a thing? It's because you weren't built like them. You weren't designed to coast through life half awake. You came equipped with a system, sharp, responsive, relentless, that picks up what most people are blind to. While others need facts and evidence, you move off truth that whispers. You're not paranoid, you're pre-wired for protection, and that makes you dangerous to anyone who relies on secrecy. Let's talk real. Science proves that the body senses danger before the conscious mind can even form a thought. That tight chest, that twisting stomach, that jolt in your spirit when someone enters the room. That's your built-in alarm screaming, "Watch this one." But society told you to ignore it, to be polite, to stay quiet, and for a while you did, until it nearly cost you everything. Your instincts didn't come from fear. They came from design. Imagine walking through a room filled with tripwires, invisible to the average eye. But you hear the faint clicks, you feel the vibration in your steps. That's not imagination, that's survival-coded intuition. That's why the setup failed. That's why you're still standing while others are buried in regret. You don't just see red flags, you feel them pulsing in your bones before they even wave. And that's the part your enemies hate. They can't move in the dark anymore, not with you around. You sense intentions before they even speak. You feel betrayal forming behind a smile. You know when something isn't right, even if everyone else is clapping for it. So don't question your gift. Don't shrink it. You were built this way for a reason. And now, that system they mocked is the same one tearing their plan apart in silence. Number 8. You keep dodging the bullet they swore would end you. They don't hate that you survived. They hate that you saw it coming and smiled. Chosen one, nothing drives your enemies crazier than watching their perfect plan fall apart without even touching you. It's not just that you escaped, it's how you escaped. Effortless, silent, calm, like you knew what was coming. And you did. Maybe not in words, but in feeling, in timing, in energy. You ducked before they fired. You vanished before they could strike. You turned left when they were aiming right. That's not coincidence. That's your edge. You're not lucky. You're lethal in your awareness. Imagine a sniper lying in wait, breath steady, finger on the trigger. Hours of patience, precision, calculation, and just as they lock in, you move. No warning, no sound, just divine timing they'll never understand. That's why they're frustrated. That's why they're unraveling. You weren't supposed to see the playbook, but you did. And now every move they make feels exposed, predictable, weak. You frustrate them because you don't react the way victims do. You don't freeze, you don't plead, you glide. While they're panicking in their own shadows, you're already gone. No screaming, no mess, just silence and strategy. That's what makes you dangerous. You read the storm before the thunder. You sense the dagger before it's unsheathed. And they hate it. Because they invested time, energy, manipulation, alliances, just to trap you. And you stepped around it like it was nothing. Every failed strike is a hit to their ego. Every clean escape makes their hands shake. You're not just hard to hit, you make their aim look foolish, and deep down they know you're not running from them. You're dancing through their downfall. So let them boil in silence. Let them scream in the dark. You keep moving. You keep frustrating. Because you were never prey. You were always the ghost in their machine. Number 9. Your intuition isn't a guess. It's a superpower they'll never understand. They laugh at your instincts right up until the moment your intuition exposes their intentions. Chosen one, stop apologizing for seeing what others pretend not to notice. You're not paranoid, dramatic, or overthinking. You're pre-wired for survival. That knot in your stomach? That wasn't nerves. That was radar. You were catching frequencies the average mind can't even detect. While others need proof, screenshots, or explanations, you move on data straight from the source. Instinct. That's not fear. That's foresight. You ever notice how every time you ignored your gut, it cost you? The friend you gave another chance to, the opportunity that looked shiny but drained you dry. You knew before it happened, and every time you listened, you dodged chaos so clean it almost felt unfair. That's not luck. That's the power of intuition doing its job. Your intuition doesn't shout, it whispers. The wise listen before the storm starts talking. Imagine walking through a crowd blindfolded, yet every time someone with bad energy nears, your heart spikes like a built-in alarm. That's you. Your spirit runs diagnostics before your mind even wakes up. It warns, shields, redirects, and it's flawless until you doubt it. Doubt is the only thing that silences protection. They call you distant because you pull back before the knife shows. They label you cold because you stop giving access the moment energy shifts. But that's not coldness, it's control. The universe doesn't waste warnings on people with no purpose. Those internal alerts come to protect rare energy, not average souls. You're not meant to explain your signals to those who can't feel them. You're meant to trust them, move with them, and watch how effortlessly they keep you steps ahead. Your intuition isn't just guidance, it's evidence that you were never meant to be fooled twice. Number 10. You were never in danger. You were the test they couldn't pass. They tried to bury you alive, and all they did was plant the seed that grew over their graves. Chosen one, this isn't just survival anymore. This is domination written into your DNA. You're not winning by accident. You were never meant to lose. Every failure they wished for you became a mirror that exposed their weakness. They didn't just lose, they learned they were never even contenders. You were built with something they can't duplicate, inevitable victory. Look at it clearly. They plotted, schemed, whispered in corners, digging holes like grave diggers drunk on hope. But every time they shoveled, they were burying themselves. You walk over their traps like stepping stones now. Their strategy, fuel, their hatred, motivation. You don't even need revenge. The universe handles that while you evolve. You don't win because they're small. You win because loss doesn't fit your blueprint. Imagine a storm chasing lightning, thinking it can catch it. That's your enemies trying to contain you, doomed from the start. They mistook endurance for weakness, silence for surrender, patience for fear. They forgot that a calm warrior is the deadliest kind. You weren't retreating, you were reloading. And now they're left choking on the truth they can't rewrite. You were never touchable. Their weapons bounced off. Their words aged like rust. Every move against you only carved your name deeper into victory. You're not winning over them, you're winning through them. The battle itself was proof of your rank. No one hunts ghosts, no one traps shadows, and no one targets the weak. They came for you because you're the trophy they'll never claim. So stand tall, chosen one. You didn't just survive the sacrifice, they offered themselves instead. This isn't comeback energy. This is permanent supremacy. Number 11. They keep hitting. Reset. You keep hitting levels. They trained for your downfall like it was destiny, but the game resets every time they think they've won. Chosen one, this cycle isn't random. Every failed attack, every crumbled setup, every exposed lie, it all points to one brutal truth. You cannot be stopped. They study your every move like obsessed chess players, convinced they'll finally outmaneuver you. But just as they think they're one step from checkmate, the whole board flips. Their strategy gets wiped, their effort deleted again. And that's what's breaking them, not just the failure, but the pattern of it. Because no matter how many times they restart, you remain untouched. You move forward, you level up, you walk away while they drown in confusion. Imagine someone trying to outrun their shadow. They exhaust themselves, but the shadow never leaves. That's them chasing your downfall. It's a race they were never built to win. Your growth resets their plans because you're evolving faster than they can plot. They call others in, whisper threats, promise your destruction like it's a prophecy. But behind closed doors, they're exhausted, they're obsessed. They can't figure out why you keep rising, why peace follows you, why nothing sticks. And the reason's simple. Every time they plot, the universe pulls the plug. Their hatred never matures. It just resets and fails louder. Meanwhile, you gain clarity. You gain awareness. Every attack handed you another layer of vision. Every attempt to stop you handed you wisdom they'll never earn. They burn energy trying to break you. You absorb it and keep moving. That's balance. That's spiritual math. That's why it keeps happening. So let them try again. Let them scream, this time we'll win. Because the moment they move, the board vanishes. The game resets, and you keep rising, untouchable, rewritten in real time, again and again and again. Number 12. They spun lies like silk. Now they're tangled in their own web. They forged illusions like weapons, but forgot truth cuts deeper than any lie ever could. Chosen one. This wasn't just jealousy or pettiness. This was full-blown manipulation, engineered to make you question yourself. They weren't just throwing shade. They were manufacturing darkness, whispered lies, fake screenshots, twisted stories, all crafted with surgical precision to make others look at you sideways. They wanted confusion, chaos, doubt, and worst of all, they wanted you to believe it too. They didn't come at you with fists. They came at you with perception, trying to edit the way people saw you and how you saw yourself. That's psychological warfare. But here's the fatal flaw. Illusion requires energy to maintain. Truth doesn't. Their lies took effort. Your truth just had to wait. The longer a lie runs, the louder the truth hits when it lands. Imagine a magician pulling off the perfect illusion, smoke, mirrors, applause, but then the lights shift and suddenly everyone sees the wires, the strings, the trapdoor. That's what just happened. Their act is over. The crowd is waking up, and now the performer is left sweating, exposed under lights they can't dim. They forgot that when you're chosen, darkness rebounds. Manipulation has a price, and energy doesn't vanish. It ricochets. Every poisoned word they sent your way, it's circling back. Every lie they told about you, It's unraveling in public. They wanted to break your image, but now their mask is melting. And you didn't fight fire with fire. You didn't defend yourself at every turn. You stood still, waited, and let time do what panic never could. You didn't just survive their campaign, you outlived it. So let them sit in the mess they made. Let the truth tighten like a noose around their little stage act, because the longer they performed, the harder the collapse. And you, chosen one, you were never fooled, only patient. Number 13. They tried to mute the truth, but you became the loudest proof. Lies echo for a moment, but truth, it carves itself into stone. Chosen one, when they couldn't destroy your path, they went for the next best weapon, perception. They tried to twist how people saw you. They couldn't touch your reality, so they went after the illusion. Fake narratives, subtle jabs, half-truths wrapped in charm. That's what cowards do when the truth is too solid to shake. But here's what they forgot. Truth doesn't need to defend itself. It just needs to last. And you outlasted every lie they crafted. You stood when everything around you tried to distort your image. And now that the fog is clearing, you're still standing, stronger, clearer, unshakable. A lie may travel fast, but it always runs out of breath. Truth just walks and always arrives. Look at history. The ones who carried real power were always framed first. They were mocked, misunderstood, misrepresented. Why? Because truth shakes systems. It makes the fake scatter. And you, chosen one, are walking, breathing, undeniable truth. That's why they panicked. That's why they tried to alter your reflection in everyone else's eyes. They couldn't break your foundation, so they tried to paint cracks on the surface. But paint wears off. And now everyone sees you clearly. Their plan shattered, their credibility collapsed, their energy boomeranged, and you're glowing through the fallout. So let the world watch. Let them wonder how you're still rising after everything. Because truth always wins. And you were never the lie. You were the lesson. Number 14. Their curse became your crown. They spit poison thinking it would drown you, but you drank it and turned it into fuel. Chosen one, they didn't just try to curse your name, they tried to erase your existence. Every whisper behind your back, every fake narrative, every shady alliance was a desperate attempt to keep you small. But they forgot something critical. When pressure hits a diamond, it doesn't break, it shines harder. What they threw at you wasn't your end. It was the fire that refined you. They tried to humiliate you, sabotage you, break your spirit so you'd never rise again. But instead of cracking, you converted every wound into wisdom. That's why their plan failed, because it wasn't built for someone with your kind of strength. Their curse was designed for the old you, not this version, not the one who now stands above the ashes, wearing every insult like a medal. You didn't just survive the darkness, you became the light it couldn't extinguish. Imagine someone throwing mud at a crown, hoping no one would see the gold underneath. But over time, the rain comes, the mud washes off, and what's left? A glow too undeniable to ignore. That's what happened. Their curses didn't bury you, they revealed you. They made people look your way, and when they did, they didn't see the monster your enemies painted. They saw the truth. Let them sit in disbelief. Let them stew in silence, because everything they tried to break became the very reason you're now unbreakable. They wrote a curse, but ended up crowning you instead. And now your voice, your power, your presence echoes louder than their lies ever could. Number 15. They can't follow where you're headed. They tried to chain you to the past. Now they're choking on your dust. Chosen One, you didn't just leave them behind. You outgrew them. You evolved past the game, past the drama, past the noise they tried to keep you trapped in. And now they're scrambling, not because they care, but because they can't follow. They're stuck in the same tired cycle, still rehearsing betrayals you already healed from. And the part that eats them alive? You're not even looking back. They were so sure you'd circle back, that you'd stay tangled in guilt, confusion, or unfinished conversations. But you didn't. You disappeared in silence and reappeared in purpose. They didn't expect that. They thought you'd beg for clarity, but you built a future instead. And now you live in a realm they can't enter, not because you blocked them, but because their energy can't survive where you're going. You didn't walk away to hurt them. You walked away because the room got too small for your spirit. Imagine a rocket launching into the sky while the crowd below screams for it to come back down. That's them, shouting from the ground while you soar higher with every passing second. They're not mad because you left. They're mad because you thrived after leaving. Their power only worked when you were within reach. Now, you're beyond it. They'll replay your last words, reread old messages, obsess over what went wrong. But here's the truth. Nothing went wrong. You just woke up. You saw the pattern. And you chose peace over the loop. Let them fumble for closure while you build legacy. Let them choke on the silence you left behind. Because the next level you've entered, they were never invited, and they never will be. Number 16. The mission continues. You weren't just chosen to survive the storm, you were chosen to lead others out of it. Chosen One, everything you went through wasn't just about you. The attacks, the lies, the betrayals, they weren't just random obstacles. They were training, preparation, spiritual conditioning. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. What you overcame was meant to break most people, but it made you into a living roadmap. You're not just a survivor, you're a signal. A walking wake-up call to every soul still trapped in the fog. Every time you speak truth, every time you walk in silence instead of chaos, someone else wakes up. You've become the proof that the system can be escaped, that the curse can be broken, that the smear doesn't stick forever. That's why your mission's not over. It's just beginning. Your scars aren't signs of weakness. They're coordinates for someone else's escape. Imagine someone trapped in a maze, running in circles for years, then seeing your footprints leading straight to the exit. That's what your journey does. Every time you heal out loud, every time you move with clarity, you leave behind a map, a key. And someone out there is silently watching, silently surviving, just waiting for permission to believe it's possible. They tried to silence you, not just because of what you'd say, but because of what you'd ignite. Your presence alone disturbs darkness. Your peace shatters illusions. And now that you've stepped into awareness, you've become a threat. Not just to the people who plotted against you, but to the system that birthed them. So don't think for a second this ends here. The light inside you, it's not a trophy, it's a torch, and you're not done until it lights up every corner of the maze. The curse didn't kill you, it commissioned you, and now the mission continues.